damp had settled into his bones. It was not the hard, clean cold of the north, but a choking, fetid chill that clung to his skin and made the ache in his leg throb like a rotten tooth. Ned Stark sat with his back against the sweating stone, wrists chafed raw where iron bit flesh, and tried to recall the sound of wind in the pines around Winterfell. Some days he could almost hear the dire wolves howling beyond the walls. Tonight, there was only the drip of unseen water and the soft scuttling of rats bold enough to creep along the edge of his vision. He wondered if Robb had called the banners, if Bran still rode, if Sansa wept herself to sleep in some gilded cage. Arya, at least, he tried to imagine running wild in some back alley, half shadow, half ghost, impossible to hold. The door grated open. Light knifed into the darkness, blinding after so many days without it. Ned squinted, raising a manacled hand to shield his eyes, and saw a round, pale face peering in, lantern held high. Varys stepped into the cell with the soft, careful tread of a man who had walked in too many places he did not belong. The spider's robes brushed the floor, rich silk gathering grime, but his expression was grave, almost tender, as he looked down at the fallen hand of the king. "Lord Stark," he said quietly, as if the stones themselves might be listening. "You are harder to kill than some would wish." Ned's voice was a rasp. "Have you come to watch me die?" "I have seen too many men die," Varys replied. He knelt, setting the lantern between them so that the light rose up, painting his face with strange angles. "I have not come to watch. I have come to offer you a choice." Ned let out something like a laugh, dry and brittle. "Joffrey offered me a choice. Confess my treason and take the black, or keep my honor and lose my head. I chose to keep my children alive, Spider. That is all the choice that ever mattered." "You chose well," Varys said. "But the boy king is not his mother or his grandfather. He is himself." A shadow crossed his gaze. "Cersei would have sent you quietly to the wall, stripped of name and title but alive. Tywin Lannister would have allowed it, for the sake of peace. Joffrey, however, has discovered that heads on spikes make the small folk shout louder than pardons whispered in septs." Ned's stomach turned to lead. He had known, of course. Honor had demanded he see the noose in any bargain offered by lions. Still, hearing it spoke aloud drove the last of his illusions from him. "So that is it," he murmured. "I am to die to amuse a boy." "Not necessarily." Varys leaned closer, his perfume an incongruous hint of lilies in the rank cell. "Your son has crossed the neck. Robb Stark rides with near all the strength of the north at his back. The riverlands burn. Renly has fled the city. Stannis sharpens his claim on Dragonstone. The realm stands on the edge of a sword, my lord. If you die here, the war in the north becomes a war without its rightful head." "My son is head enough," Ned said, but his heart clenched. Robb, with his father's sword and his mother's fierce will, riding into battle believing his sire already lost. "Perhaps," Varys allowed, "but a boy of 15 cannot know this city's poisons. He cannot know the games the lions play. You have looked Cersei Lannister in the eye and told her you knew of her bastards. You have seen how far she will go to protect her children. You know Tywin's ruthlessness as Robert never cared to. Your death will harden the north, but your life might yet guide it." Ned stared at the flickering lantern flame. Once, long ago, he had knelt in the snow at the Tower of Joy and made a promise to a dying sister. He had broken oath after oath for the sake of that promise. Now he felt Lyanna's hand in his again, fever-hot, light as ash. "Promise me, Ned. Promise me." Above that remembered whisper he heard Sansa's thin, desperate plea on the steps of the September, and Arya's wild laughter as she ran down Winterfell's halls with a wooden sword in hand. "What choice?" he asked, his voice barely more than air. Varys exhaled as if he had been holding that breath for days. "The boy will have his spectacle," he said. "The crowd will see a man kneel in the September and confess his treasons. They will see a head fall. The songs will be sung. But it need not be your head, Lord Stark." Ned met his eyes. "A double," he said. "Some poor wretch who shares my beard and shoulders." Some poor wretch who was going to die anyway, Varys said, not bothering to soften it. In the black cells above yours is a man condemned for slitting a gold cloak's throat. Strong of build, ragged with hunger, eager to live one more day. He will have his wish. He will die as Eddard Stark, Lord of Winterfell, Hand of the King. And you, if you agree, will die as some nameless wraith and rise again in the only place you have ever wished to be. The North, Ned whispered. On a ship that sails with the dawn, Varys said. Hidden like contraband, and worth more than any jewel. Ned closed his eyes. Honor whispered that this was cowardice, that he had confessed to lies already, and now he would let another man die in his place. A Stark should face the sword himself, but a lord's first duty was to the living under his care, not to the clean geometry of a spotless conscience. Robb, Bran, Rickon, Sansa, Arya, the North. If he died here, a northern boy would wear a crown forged of grief and rage, and that crown would drown them all in blood. He opened his eyes. What of my daughters? He asked. If I flee, they are all the hostages the Lannisters shall ever need. They are hostages whether you flee or die, Varys said softly. But dead men cannot bargain. Alive, you may still save them. Dead, you are only a name for Joffrey to curse. He hesitated. The younger girl has slipped my nets for now. Yoren of the Night's Watch took some recruits from the dungeons before the Handsmen were seized. It is possible she was among them. The elder, I will do what I can. Ned's throat burned. You play a deep game, Spider. I play for peace, Varys said. And for the realm. But tonight, I play for you, if you will allow it. Ned looked down at his shackled wrists. He had marched south to save his friend from himself and found only rot and treachery. If he could march north again, it would be to make war with clear eyes. Slowly, he lifted his hands. Then loose me. Varys produced a key from some hidden pocket, its teeth catching the lantern light. As the irons fell away, Ned flexed his fingers, blood pricking the skin where rust had bitten deep. He felt older than he ever had, but when he stood, his back straightened of its own accord. Winterfell, he thought. Robb, the Heart Tree. The gods had not granted him mercy. They had offered him a chance for justice. Come, Varys murmured, gathering up his lantern. We have much to do and very little time. By dawn, Eddard Stark will be dead. See that you make his ghost worthy of the songs. Salt and pitch and old fish. That was the smell of his rebirth. Ned crouched in the darkness of the crate, knees protesting, shoulders wedged against rough wood, every creak of the hull echoing through his bones. Above, he could hear muffled shouts as sailors hauled on lines, the deep groan of ropes straining, the slap of water against the ship's side. Somewhere beyond the lid, the city roared. Bells and distant voices, the restless clamor of 100,000 souls who had no notion that one of the men they cursed and praised was being smuggled out like stolen wine. He imagined the steps of the great September bathed in morning light, the crowd pressing close for a better glimpse of a traitor's fall. The condemned man would be hauled out in chains, beard matted, body thinned by the black cells. Sansa would be there, pale and trembling. Joffrey would sit with crown askew, lips curved in that cruel boy's pout. The headsman's sword would rise. Somewhere, a singer would be watching, already composing the lay. Their Eddard Stark would die, and the realm would weep or cheer, and for a time, the world might seem simpler. He pressed his forehead to the rough plank. His wrists still ached where the irons had been, ghost weight of chains he no longer wore. He had agreed to let another man die for him, and though Varys's words about condemned throats and wasted lives had rung coldly true, the guilt sat in him like a stone. He knew the faces of too many dead men. Adding one more to the tally in his stead felt like another betrayal, even if the man's death might buy more lives than Ned's honor ever could. The crate lurched, then steadied. Boots thumped above, a bellowed order. Slowly, the ship began to move, the familiar sway of water under keel rolling through him. He had not been to sea since he was a boy riding south with his father to Foster at the Eyrie. Then, the world had still seemed wide and unbroken, a map of oaths yet unmade. Now it felt smaller, every road leading to the same hard choices. He thought of Winterfell's Godswood, the red leaves whispering in the wind. Of Arya sitting cross-legged in the snow with needle balanced across her knees, scowling at Septa Mordaine's scolding. Of Sansa sewing by the window, head bent, humming some song about gallant knights and gentle queens. He had failed them all by bringing them here, by trusting a drunken king's love and a court's honor, by believing that truth, once spoken, must prevail. No more, he swore silently. The North will not bleed because I was too proud to crawl when I must. At length, the crate's lid scraped open. Ned flinched from the sudden shaft of gray light, eyes watering. A narrow, sharp-cheeked face peered down at him. A boy of perhaps 16, with the flat, assessing stare of someone who had seen a great deal more of the world than his years should allow. "You're uglier than the last cask of arbor I smuggled," the boy observed. "But I suppose you'll fetch a better price." Ned blinked, then realized the accent beneath the jest. "White Harbor, or close to it?" "You are the captain?" he asked, voice hoarse. The boy snorted. "7 hells, no. I'm only the one fool enough to open crates the eunuch tells us not to look in." He glanced over his shoulder, then back. "Name's Bannon. We're bound for White Harbor. You were never here. Ed..." Ned began, then stopped, the name catching like a bone in his throat. "I am no one of consequence." Bannon's mouth twitched. And I'm the Dragon Knight." He extended a hand. "Come on, no one of consequence. If you stay in there, you'll be no one of consequence and very dead. The spider said to see you to a cabin with no questions asked." Ned let himself be hauled up, joints screaming as he straightened. The deck rolled under his feet, the air sharp with salt and the faint tang of kelp. Beyond the ship's rail, the Blackwater widened, slate gray under a low, clouded sky. King's Landing clung to its hills behind them, a jumble of stone and smoke and glittering towers. The Red Keep crouched above like a great red beast watching its prey slip away. He stood there a long moment, fingers tightening on the railing. Somewhere in that sprawl of streets his daughters lived or suffered. Somewhere above the city, a crow wheeled and cried, its voice thin and distant on the wind. He thought of the ravens that had carried his summons to the north, of the banners that would have risen at his call. "Goodbye, your grace," he murmured under his breath, surprising himself with the words. Robert would not hear him. Robert was gone, or as good as, devoured by wine and his own indifference long before the boar gored him. The friend he had followed to war had died at the Trident. The man who wore his face after had simply taken longer to fall. "Never been to the north," Bannon said, following his gaze. "They say it's all ice and wolves, and men who'd rather fight the cold than each other." "We have our share of fights," Ned said, the corner of his mouth quirking despite himself. "But the North remembers." Bannon shrugged. "Best hope it remembers you kindly, then." He jerked his thumb toward a low, cramped doorway. "Come on." The captain agreed to the spider's gold. "But if he sees you staring at the city like a wronged husband at his faithless bride, he might think twice." Ned cast one last look at the shrinking shore. The Red Keep's walls blurred in the distance, the great Sept's white domes barely visible through the haze. He imagined, for an instant, the roar of a crowd echoing from that hill, the swing of a sword. Somewhere, a man died in his name. Somewhere, Sansa screamed. He could not stop those things. All he could do now was make them mean something. Then he turned his back on the south and walked into the dimness of the ship's bowels, feeling every step carry him closer to home. White Harbor smelled of salt and smoke and wealth. Marble floors gleamed beneath Ned's boots, veined green and gray like the sea in winter. Tall columns rose on either side of the great hall, carved with leaping silver trout and snarling direwolves and, most prominent of all, fat white mermen with tridents in their hands. Where Winterfell's hall was all dark wood and age, this one shone, new built by southern masons and northern coin, a statement as bold as any banner. At the far end of the hall, upon a high seat carved with curling waves, Lord Wyman Manderley regarded his guest with eyes as sharp as any blade, despite the heavy flesh that swaddled his body. His double chin wobbled as he leaned forward, rings flashing on fingers as thick as sausages. "This is a jest," he said at last, his voice booming off the stone. "Some mummer's trick." Eddard Stark lost his head on the steps of the Great September a fortnight past. "There are sailors in my harbor now who swear they saw the blood stain the very stones. You ask me to believe otherwise." Ned pulled back his hood. Gray shot through the dark of his beard now, and lines carved deeper about his eyes than when he had ridden south. But the wolf's face was still his. Manderley's guards shifted uneasily, hands tightening on sword hilts. One man actually crossed himself, as if warding off a ghost. "You can believe what you like of King's Landing tales," Ned said quietly. "I have bled in that city enough to know its lies run deeper than its sewers. The man they killed wore my face, that much is true. He died in my stead to give me this chance." Lord Wyman stared, the color draining from his cheeks until he looked less a plump lord and more a great beached fish. Slowly, he pushed himself up from his chair, breath whistling with the effort. "By the Seven," he murmured. "Or perhaps by your old gods. You are Eddard Stark." "My lord." Ned stepped forward and went to one knee, bowing his head. "I come to you as a man thought dead, with no cloak of office to cover my shame. I failed to see the knives in the south until they were already at my throat. I bring you no orders, only a plea." "A Stark on his knees in my hall," Manderley said, almost to himself. "I never thought to see such a day." He descended the steps with surprising grace, the bulk of him moving like a ship under full sail. Reaching Ned, he extended a hand. "Stand up, my lord. If word of this is true, then the North has not lost its head after all." Ned rose. Wyman studied him a moment longer, then embraced him suddenly, the layers of velvet and fur engulfing him in unexpected warmth. "We thought you gone," the man said gruffly near his ear. "The ravens came with talk of treason and execution. Your boy has called his banners. The Manderleys are already sworn to ride." "How many?" Ned asked as they parted. "How long?" Wyman's lips thinned. "Robb Stark crossed the neck 10 days past, they say. With him ride the Karstarks, the Umbers, the Boltons, the Serwins, at least. Thousands of spears. The Tallhearts and Glover men marched south by land, while we prepared ships to carry grain and men along the coast if needed. The Riverlands burn, Lord Stark. Tywin Lannister marches, and the Tullis bleed. Robb in the south." Ned felt the weight of each word. His son, his heir, bearing the Stark banner into war, believing his father dead. "Has he won any battles yet?" he asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "None that word has reached us of," Manderley said. "But the young wolf moves swift, they say. Too swift, some think." His eyes narrowed. "Does he know you live?" "No," Ned admitted, "and I would have it remain so for now. Word travels faster than ravens when Lannisters prick up their ears. If the Queen learns I escaped, she has 2 daughters in her grasp. Hostages are as good as any sword. Better if she means to bring my boy to heel." Lord Wyman grunted. "You have heard no news of the girls?" "Varys believes the younger may have slipped his nets with Yoren of the Watch," Ned said. "The elder remains betrothed to the boy who ordered my head struck off." The words tasted of iron. "I will not have her used as a leash around Robb's throat." "So you mean to ride south and warn him?" Manderley's tongue darted over his lips. "To take command." "I mean to ride south and stand at my son's side," Ned said. "He has done what I would have done had I not been caged. The North answers insult with steel. But he has never seen the way Tywin Lannister fights. He has never watched Cersei smile as she cuts a throat with parchment and ink. I have. That is the only advantage I bring him, and I will not keep it from him out of pride." Manderley's gaze softened, just a little. "You are hard on yourself, my lord. The North will be glad enough to have its lord returned. Never mind the state you come in." "The North has a lord," Ned replied. Robb Stark. If he falls, then the boy in Winterfell. His chest tightened. Bran? Lives? Wyman said swiftly, reading the fear in his face. And the little one, Rickon. There was some talk of wolves and a fall. Broken bones, broken backs. But the last raven from Winterfell said your crippled boy had opened his eyes again. A Stark with a broken spine still stands taller than most men, I'd say. Ned let out a breath he had not known he was holding. Bran alive. Bran breathing. He could worry at the details later. For now, it was enough. He gestured toward the tall, narrow windows where snow danced on the wind. Will you aid me, Lord Manderley? Aye, Wyman said at once. You need not ask it twice. My ships will see you down the coast as far as you wish. My men will ride under your son's banner, and my halls will stay ready to receive whatever wounded the river sends back to us. His expression turned sly. But we will need to be delicate. There are Lannister eyes in every port from here to Old Town. Any hint that Eddard Stark lives, they will wring Sansa's neck to see if ghost blood comes out, Ned finished grimly. Then we must convince them they killed me properly the first time. Wyman's chuckle rumbled like distant thunder. Leave that to me, my lord. My maester has a poet's soul. Between us, we'll see the South drinking songs of your death for months yet. He clapped Ned on the arm, fingers sinking deep into the worn leather. In the meantime, we'll get you a horse, and a cloak that does not stink of Blackwater bilge. Ned almost smiled. If I never smell that river again, it will be too soon. As you say, Manderley straightened, raising his voice so it carried across the hall. Send word to my captains. Lord Stark rides for the neck, and let it be known that White Harbor mourns the late Eddard Stark, who died bravely and without complaint, as the songs will tell it. His eyes gleamed. We'll lay you to rest in 100 verses, my lord. The Lannisters will never doubt you're dead. And when they look north, Ned murmured, feeling something stir in his chest that might almost have been hope, they'll see only my son. Until it is too late, Wyman agreed. Ned inclined his head. Then let us be about it. The north unfolded around him in long rolling miles of frost-kissed earth and dark trees. Even this far south of Winterfell, the air tasted cleaner, the sky whiter. Ned drew it into his lungs like a man just dragged from drowning, feeling the chill scrape his throat, and let the steady rhythm of hooves and leather and creaking harness wash away the last clinging memory of King's Landing stench. They rode hard but not reckless, a small company of picked men from Manderley's household and a handful of squat, bearded White Harbor guards more at home with nets than spears. Their banners were furled. The dire wolf on Ned's breast had been covered by a plain gray surcoat. To any chance traveler, they were no more than a minor northern lord returning from southern trade, an unremarkable thread in the tapestry of a realm at war. At night, beneath the cold glitter of northern stars, they camped off the road, fires banked low. Men spoke of rumors instead of songs. Tywin's host had crossed the Trident with fire at its back. Gregor Clegane had left a trail of butchered villages in the Riverlands. Robb Stark had called the banners at Winterfell, and men from Last Hearth to the Dreadfort had answered, their spears marching south while snow still clung to the high passes. No one knew yet where the young wolf would choose to give battle, only that he marched fast and with purpose. Ned listened, the words settling in him like stones. It was one thing to know, abstractly, that his son had taken up arms in his name. It was another to hear a White Harbor guard speak of Robb in the reverent, uneasy tones men used for leaders already half-legend. He watched the boy he remembered, freckled, lanky, stubborn, blur in his mind's eye into this new shape, a youth on the cusp of manhood, riding with Lord Umber on one side and Lord Karstark on the other, wolves and banners and battle in his future. On the fourth day, they met the first of the returning wounded. A cart creaked toward them on iron-bound wheels, drawn by a gaunt horse with its ribs showing. In the back, huddled under stained blankets, lay 3 men in torn cloaks, one with his arm in a bloody sling, another pale with fever, a third staring at the sky with eyes that did not seem to see much of anything. Ned reined in. "Where from?" he called as they drew level. The carter squinted up at him, eyes rimmed red. "Moat Cailin, Lord. Lord Robb's host passed there, all right. A host like I never seen. These are men as tried to keep up and didn't." His gaze flicked over Ned's plain gear, lingering a heartbeat on the lines of his face. Whatever he saw there made him straighten. "You look familiar." "Many men do in war," Ned said. "Tell me, did my lord's son speak when he passed?" "Spoke little," the carter said, "but he looked like a Stark. Rode quiet, listened hard. The way the great lords watched him." He shook his head. "There's a weight on that boy's shoulders, Lord. One no lad should have to bear." Ned's fingers tightened on the reins. "He does not bear it alone," he said, more to himself than the man. Aloud he added, "See these men safely to White Harbor. Lord Manderley will not stint them." The carter nodded, gratitude flickering through his weariness. "Seven bless you, Lord, or your old gods, if they care to look south." When the cart had rattled away, one of the guards glanced sideways at Ned. "You could have told him," the man said softly. "He would have sung it from here to the Dreadfort. Eddard Stark rides again." "And by the time the song reached King's Landing," Ned replied, "my daughter would have no breath left to sing anything." The man flushed and fell silent. Ned urged his horse forward, the column moving with him. The road curved between low hills, frost crunching beneath hooves. A raven flapped from a bare-branched tree ahead, black wings stark against the pale sky. For an instant, as it circled over them, Ned felt a prickle at the back of his neck, as if some unseen eye watched, measuring. He thought of the heart tree, of the faces carved into the weirwood, their red sap tears, and did something he had not done in King's Landing. He prayed not to the stranger or the warrior or the mother, but to the old gods of earth and leaf and stone. Watch over them, he thought, over Robb, over Bran, over the daughters I have left in the lion's den. Give me a chance to make right what I can. Far ahead, beyond the southern horizon, the trident ran red and the halls of Riverrun smoldered. But between those distant fires and the cold north, the neck lay waiting, a narrow choke of marsh and ruin that had turned back more conquerors than any golden host. Somewhere within its treacherous bogs, Robb Stark's host would be making camp, banners snapping in the wind. Ned rode toward that invisible camp as if toward a second judgment. By the time they reached the fringes of the neck, the air had turned wet and heavy, the ground beneath the horses' hooves loosening into mud. The pines gave way to twisted, pale-trunked trees draped in gray beards of moss. Mist clung to everything, swallowing sound. Even the men grew quieter, huddling into their cloaks as if eyes watched from every patch of reeds. The Crannogmen, one of Manderley's captains, muttered, "They say they can vanish into a puddle and come out your boot cuff." Ned had met Howland Reed only once, at the Tower of Joy, where blood and promises had bound them both. "If they watch us," he said, "let them see a Stark riding to his son. That is no foe to the neck." It was 3 days more of careful progress before they saw the first wolf banner. It snapped in the damp breeze atop a rough-hewn pole, gray cloth dark with moisture, the direwolf's shape blurred but unmistakable. Men in stark cloaks stood beneath it, spears in hand, eyes hard. Ned felt his heart stutter. Home, the word whispered in his bones. Not Winterfell's stones, not its halls, but his people, his blood. The North. "Who comes?" A voice called, sharp and wary. Ned nudged his horse forward, lowering his hood. "A man you buried already," he said, "and his duty, which is not so easily put in the ground." The guards stared, mouths falling open. One of them actually stumbled back a step, making the sign of the antlered tree over his chest. The other dropped to one knee, head bowed. "Lord Stark," he breathed. "By the old gods, it's you." The camp sprawled across the firmest ground they could find, islands of trampled earth rising out of the marshy gloom. Fires burned low to keep the mist at bay, their smoke mingling with the sense of stewing meat, sweat, and wet leather. Men moved between tents like shadows, swords at their hips, cloaks pulled tight. Everywhere Ned looked, he saw wolves. The gray dire wolf of Stark, the snarling black and white of Umber, the flayed man of Bolton, the sunburst of Karstark. The North made flesh. As he rode through, heads turned. Conversations faltered, then stopped altogether. One man dropped the bucket he was carrying, water sloshing over his boots as he stared, slack-jawed. Another made the same hasty, awkward sign over his chest the sentry had, as if warding off an apparition. Lord Stark, someone breathed, half prayer, half disbelief. Word ran ahead of him like fire over dry grass. By the time he dismounted before the largest of the command tents, a knot of men had gathered. A ring of faces he knew as well as his own bannermen at Winterfell's table. Great John Umber, towering and broad, beard bristling. Roose Bolton, pale-eyed and expressionless as ever. Rickard Karstark, gaunt and grim. Even young Theon Greyjoy hovered at the edge of the group, eyes wide, mouth curved in something between delight and unease. 7 bloody hells, Great John rumbled as Ned approached. If you're a white, my lord, you're the politest one I ever saw. I bleed the same as any man, Ned said. I have the scars to prove it. Do you now? Umber's gaze raked him up and down, taking in the plain surcoat, the road grime, the streaks of gray in his beard. Slowly, a grin split his face. Well, if the Lannisters can't tell a Stark from a footpad, that's their loss. Looks to me like we've 2 wolves now instead of 1. Roose Bolton's voice slid in, smooth and thin. 2 wolves, 1 pack. That can complicate matters. Ned met his pale eyes without flinching. It need not, Lord Bolton, he said. We have one cause. My son called the banners. I am here to answer that call like any other man of the North. The tent flap stirred. What's all this noise? Robb Stark stepped out, irritation in his voice, hand on his sword hilt. He wore mail over leather, a Stark cloak thrown back from his shoulders, the direwolf's head clasp gleaming at his throat. For a heartbeat, Ned saw only the boy who had sat in the high seat with his father's sword laid across his knees when he rode south. Then his son's eyes found his, and everything else fell away. Robb froze. The camp sounds dropped into a strange, thick silence. They stared at one another across a sea of men. Father and son, gray and auburn, winter and the sharp edge of summer. A muscle jumped in Robb's jaw. His hand fell away from his sword. Is this another southern trick? He asked hoarsely. Some Lannister mummery? His gaze flickered to the Great John, to Bolton, as if seeking confirmation that the world had not twisted entirely out of true. No trick, Ned said. His throat felt tight. I am no ghost, Robb, though the South believes me dead enough. For a moment, Robb did not move. Ned saw the war against disbelief play itself out in his son's face. Anger, grief, hope, fear. Then, suddenly, Robb was moving, taking the steps between them in a half-run. He stopped only when they were arm's length apart, staring up into Ned's face like a boy again. You died, he said, voice breaking. We heard you died. They said they cut off my head. Ned finished gently. They put another man's neck on the block for me. I would not have had it so if there were any other way, but there wasn't. He reached out, laid a hand on Robb's shoulder. The armor was cold under his palm, the muscle beneath it taut as a bowstring. You have grown. Robb made a small, helpless sound, and then he was dragging Ned into an embrace, arms wrapping around him with desperate strength. Ned held him tightly, feeling the tremor that ran through his son's body, the half-stifled hitching of his breath. For a little while, the war, the watching lords, the weight of everything else fell away. There was only the feel of his boy's shoulders, the scent of sweat and leather and horse, the knowledge that he had not, in the end, left his children entirely alone. I thought I'd failed you, Robb muttered into his shoulder. I thought. If I'd ridden sooner, if I'd marched faster. You did what needed doing, Ned said firmly, pulling back enough to look him in the eye. You called the banners. You led the North-South to answer insult. That is what a Stark of Winterfell does. He swallowed. I failed you, Robb. I failed in the South, trusting men who did not deserve it. I will not fail you again. Robb scrubbed a hand across his face, trying to flatten the emotion out of it. When he turned back to the ring of watching lords, his spine was straight, his voice measured, but there was a new steadiness under the surprise. My lords, he said, you know my father. You swore oaths to him before you swore them to me. He has returned from the south when all the realm thought him dead. That is the work of the gods, old or new. Great John Umber let out a booming laugh. If the gods are handing Starks back from the grave, I'll drink to that. Twice. Bolton inclined his head. Useful, to have a man the Lannisters think safely dead standing in their path. Karstark's eyes burned. Aye, the more wolves snapping at their heels, the better. They will not stay fools forever, Roose added mildly. Once word spreads. Word will not spread. Robb cut in, surprising Ned with the steel in his tone. Not beyond what we choose. My father's life is a weapon we will not waste by waving in the lions' faces at the first chance. He glanced at Ned. If that is your will, father. It is, Ned said quietly. For Sansa's sake, and Arya's if she yet lives. Let the Lannisters keep cheering my death for now. When they see me, I would have it be on ground of my choosing. The lords exchanged glances. Slowly, one by one, they nodded. Ned felt a flicker of something like pride as he watched them bend. Not to his name, but to Robb's word. The boy had grown into command quickly. Too quickly, perhaps, but that was the way of war. Come inside, Robb said to Ned, gesturing toward the tent. We were just laying out plans to cross the Twins and strike at Tywin's host. I'd have your counsel if you'll give it. His mouth tightened. I have missed your counsel. And I yours, Ned said. He let his hand rest a moment longer on his son's shoulder, then followed him into the tent, where maps lay spread like flayed skin across the table and carved stone markers marched over them like toy soldiers. He looked down at the riverlands rendered in ink and parchment, the green fork, the red fork, Harrenhal's ominous blot, Riverrun's trident towers, and saw not lines and sigils, but faces. Cersei smiling without warmth, Littlefinger with his mocking half-smile, Tywin's cold, assessing gaze. He had gone south once as Robert's friend and hand and found only treachery. Now he came as a Stark among wolves. This time, he vowed, the South would learn what it meant when the North came to war led by a man they had already killed. The candle wax had run in pale rivers down the iron stands, pooling in hardened drips along the table's edge. Ned stood with both hands braced on the worn wood, studying the ink lines that meant life and death to men he would never know by name. Rivers, roads, fords, castles. The whole of the riverlands sprawled beneath his gaze in parchment form, and yet the world outside the tent felt smaller than ever, pressed in by war and time. Robb traced a gloved finger along one of the dark lines. Here, he said, tapping where the green fork narrowed. Lord Tywin holds the western bank. His scouts harry any man who comes within bowshot. To reach Riverrun in time, we must cross the Twins, or find some other ford. If we march against Tywin first, Uncle Edmure bleeds alone. He bleeds either way, Roose Bolton observed, his voice cool as river water. Choose which wound you can afford. Great John Umber snorted. I say we take the lion by the mane. Break Tywin first. The rest will scurry back to Casterly Rock like cubs whipped by the bitch that bore them. Tywin Lannister does not scurry, Ned said quietly. All eyes swung to him. He felt their weight but did not look away from the map. He withdraws when it serves him. He burns out cancer when he smells it. He does not waste men on pride. He lifted one of the carved horse markers between forefinger and thumb. When Robert rebelled, Tywin sat within his walls while we bled and burned. Then, when he saw the crown totter, he brought his full strength down upon King's Landing, opened its gates with treachery, and put a dead king in our hands to win favor with the living one. Robb's mouth tightened. You think he'll try the same now? I think he will do whatever serves House Lannister, Ned said. If he can break the young wolf in the field, he will. If he cannot, he will find some other way to win that does not stain his own hands so obviously red. He set the horse down on the map again, near a rough ink sketch of a bridge. What have you from Walder Frye? Little enough beyond what we already know, Robb said. That the twins belong to him, that he will not open his gates for love, and must be persuaded by other means. He glanced at Catelyn's empty chair by the tent's entrance, a small frown pinching his brows. Mother rides from Riverrun to treat with him. She knows him better than any man of the North does. Ned felt a pang, sudden and sharp. Catelyn on the road somewhere between river and marsh, believing herself the widow of a traitor, bearing the burden of their house alone. He had not allowed himself to think too closely on her in the black cells. It had been a cruelty he could not bear in the dark. Now, with his son at his side and the old god's air in his lungs, the thought of her struck harder. Walder Frye is proud, he said slowly, groping back through memories of small, awkward encounters at old councils. Proud and prickly, like a man forever convinced that no one properly values him. He will want oaths, marriages, assurances that his blood will be bound to yours for all to see. He'll want us leashed, Great John growled. He'll want us kin, Bolton corrected. Which is better for a time until it isn't. Robb's jaw worked. I have little enough to bargain with him. My sisters are. He broke off, swallowing, eyes flickering briefly to Ned's face. Sansa is still in King's Landing. Arya may be dead. No one seems to know. I cannot offer him their hands. He might demand mine. He may, Ned allowed. But the choice of whose hand you give is yours, not his. He studied the ink line of the green fork again, thinking. Your plan? To draw Tywin west with the foot, Robb said. Leave the Great John and Lord Bolton to harry his lines. Keep him wary of battle, but not fully engaged. I take the horse by forced march to the twins, cross there, and fall on Jaime Lannister's host from the rear while he besieges Riverrun. Break him, free Uncle Edmure, and we have the Kingslayer in our hands and the lion's whelp for a leash. Ned nodded slowly. It was a daring plan, risky, but not reckless. Had he been here when they first sat to plan, he would have counseled caution, but men's lives had already been committed to this course. To turn aside now would be to admit hesitation in front of Lord and Bannerman alike. And what of word from King's Landing? He asked. Has there been any since the raven that spoke of my death? Robb's eyes darkened. A letter from the Queen, he said, the word sour, offering gracious terms. I come to court as a loyal vassal, bend the knee, lay my sword at the feet of Joffrey Baratheon, release the Westerland prisoners I hold, and she will show mercy to Sansa. There was nothing of Arya, or of you. Mercy, Rickard Karstark spat. The mercy of a cat with a mouse under its paw. They know anger drives you now, Ned said. They expect you to throw men against their walls until your grief runs out. We will not give them the battle they think they're buying. He tapped the map where Robb's finger had been. Your plan has teeth. We will keep it, but we will sharpen it where we can. Robb looked at him, that same fierce, stubborn light in his eyes that had so often clashed with Catelyn's temper at Winterfell. Say what needs saying then, he said. I won't have you walking on eggshells for my pride. Ned almost smiled. Very well. If you ride hard for the twins with horse alone, you leave your foot exposed. Tywin is no fool. Once he sees that the young wolf has stripped his host to move quickly, he may fall upon your rear with all his strength and crush your slower men before they can withdraw to safe ground. Then he marches on Moat Cailin and takes your road north from under you, leaving you with nothing behind you but the river and the Frey's goodwill. And goodwill is not something Lord Walder is much known for, Roose Bolton murmured. Robb frowned down at the map. So we bring more of the foot with us? That will slow you, Ned said. And time is as much an enemy as Tywin. No, you send your foot in smaller strength, but you give them a sharper sting. He moved a cluster of markers, arranging them in a crescent along the western bank. Lord Bolton is right. Your father's life is a weapon, so is his supposed death. Let Tywin believe that Robb Stark leads his own host by himself, desperate and driven, with no seasoned commander at his side. Send men who fight as if impulsive, striking and withdrawing, never fully committing. Let him think the North is led by youth and anger. He will move to punish that arrogance. Great Jon snorted. You make a fair youth, lad, he told Robb approvingly. I've seen you swing a sword. Robb almost bristled, then bit it back, catching the humor in the Umber's eyes. So I am bait, he said, on 2 hooks instead of 1. In part, Ned said, but hooks with steel behind them. If Lord Bolton and Lord Umber are to hold Tywin's gaze, they must bleed him when he tests them. Not enough to risk destruction, but enough to make him wary. And when you cross, you must move faster and quieter than any southern knight thinks wolves can. That will depend on Lord Walder, Robb said bleakly. If he closes his gates, we stall here while Riverrun burns. Then we cannot let him close his gates, Ned said. Your mother knows the man. Let her play to his pride. And He hesitated, feeling the eyes on him. I might yet be of use here as well. How? Robb asked sharply. If the phrase learn you live. They will not, Ned said. Not all. An old man in a plain cloak can be overlooked. A dead man more so. Let the lords of the twins toast the late Eddard Stark, traitor, while their maids pour wine for some northern knight who asks too many questions about their loyalties. I do not say I relish the task, but I know Cersei's ilk. Men like Walder Frey sniff the wind and bend with it. We must know which way he leans, and how far, before we place the weight of half your host on his bridges. Robb's frown deepened. You would go into his hall as a hedge knight? Father, if he discovers. If he discovers, the worst he can do is kill me, Ned said, which the realm already believes he has. He cannot parade my head on his walls without confessing he sheltered me. He cannot sell me back to the Lannisters without admitting he let their prize slip through his fingers once already. Walder Frey values his skin and his standing. Both are safer if he pretends he never saw me. Roose Bolton's lips thinned. It may work. You have some mastery of the game, it seems, Lord Stark. I have some mastery of its costs, Ned said. That is not the same thing. Robb looked between his father and his lords, weighing the risk. At last he nodded, jaw set. Very well. We march as planned. Umber, Bolton, you move west with the bulk of the foot and keep Lord Tywin honest. Harry him, sting him, but do not be drawn into full battle unless you can see how to win it cleanly. I'll take the horse to the twins. Mother will treat with Lord Walder. Father, his mouth quirked oddly around the word. Father will ride with me, and then vanish into the hall like some story the Crannogmen tell. Great Jon grinned. I'll drink to that too. Ned straightened, feeling the decision settle over them like a cloak. It was not a perfect plan. Wars seldom offered those, but it was the best they had, given the pieces on the board and the time left to move them. He looked at his son, at the ring of grim northern faces around him, and felt something twist low in his gut. Fear, yes, but also a fierce, dark pride. We ride at first light, Robb said. Spend the night with your men, my lords. Speak with them. Let them see in your eyes that this is not a march to mere vengeance, but to justice. We do not butcher villages for sport. We are not lions. His gaze sharpened. We are wolves, and we remember. The words rippled through the tent like the first hint of a howl. For an instant, Ned thought he could almost hear Winterfell's direwolves calling in the distance, their voices braided into one long, low note that made the hairs on his arms rise. He bowed his head, not to his son, but with him to the task ahead. Outside, the wind plucked at the tent like fingers on a harp, and the north listened. The stones drank blood greedily, as if they had been starved of it for years and now gorged themselves. Sansa watched, numb, as crimson spread in a dark fan across the pale steps, seeping into tiny cracks where grass sometimes dared to grow. It clung to the edge of the block, ran in fat drops down the grooves time and knees had worn. The man's head had rolled a little way, beard matted, gray streaked with red, eyes still open and fixed on nothing at all. He looked like her father. In the moment the sword had swept through the air, in that awful pause where the whole world seemed to hold its breath, Sansa had believed it was him. The sound had been worse than she had ever imagined. A dull, thick thump, and then the crowd's roar crashing over it. She had screamed once, she thought, but it had been swallowed by the noise, by the hands that had clamped down on her shoulders and forced her to her knees. Afterward, she had not cried, not properly. Tears had come, hot and shocking, but they had frozen somewhere behind her eyes, leaving her face stiff and empty. Joffrey had enjoyed that. He liked to poke at her composure the way a boy might torment a trapped beetle. "You see," he said now, lounging on the metal and wood confection that served him as a throne in the smaller audience chamber. It was not the Iron Throne, but it was still ornate enough to make him look like some gaudy idol. "Your father was a traitor. He got his traitor's death. I was very merciful. I gave him a clean stroke." Merciful. The word made Sansa's stomach twist. She kept her eyes lowered, hands folded tight in her lap to keep them from shaking. "Yes, your grace," she said, because that was what he wanted to hear. Cersei reclined elegantly on her own chair, watching over the edge of her cup. There was something like satisfaction in her eyes, but also calculation. For all that she had tried to stop the boy on the steps, Sansa had seen her reach out, fingers closing on empty air as Joffrey stepped forward to give the order. She had done nothing more. She had not hurled herself down the stairs. She had not thrown her son bodily from the balcony. She had not saved him. She had not saved Sansa's father, either. Varys stood in the shadows near one of the carved pillars, hands folded, eyes heavy-lidded. Littlefinger lounged nearby like a cat in a sunbeam, half-smile playing about his lips. Sansa could feel their gazes flick over her at intervals, assessing, weighing, amused. A Stark girl in a nest of Southron serpents. "It was brave of you not to look away," Joffrey said. His fingers drummed petulantly on the arm of his chair. "Most girls would have fainted. Some did. Did you see? That fat man's daughter shrieked like a pig." Sansa forced herself to raise her eyes. She thought of Septa Mordane's lectures on courtesy and composure, on how a lady must always reflect grace upon her house. She thought of her father's face when he had told her they would go home, that they would leave this city and its lies. That had been before he had stood on the steps and called himself a traitor for their sakes. "I wanted to be brave for my father," she said. Her voice did not break. He confessed, your grace. He told the truth you wished to hear. I thought it would please you if I did the same." Joffrey's smile sharpened. "It did," he said. "I'm very pleased with you, Sansa. You've learned your place. When we are wed, you'll teach our children to be loyal to their king as you were today." She stared at him. For a heartbeat, her mind stuttered. Children. She imagined little versions of Joffrey, all with his mother's golden hair and his grandfather's cold eyes, laughing as heads fell on the steps. Her body went cold. "Of course, your grace," she heard herself say. Cersei's gaze flicked between them, calculating. "You'll have children when the time is right," she said. "For now, the realm needs stability. Your father's treason has thrown us all into peril. Robb Stark marches south with an army. My father writes of burned villages and broken men along the Trident." She sipped her wine. "We must make it clear that the North's rebellion will not avail them." "Robb is a traitor too," Joffrey said. "I'll have his head as well. And your brothers. All of them." He leaned forward, eyes bright, as if speaking of some new toy. "You'll bring me their heads, won't you?" Sansa's tongue felt thick in her mouth. She remembered Robb laughing in the yard with Grey Wind at his heels, Bran chasing after them with his wooden sword. She remembered how carefully Robb had listened when father spoke of duty. He is your subject, your grace," she said carefully. "If he realizes his error, perhaps he will bend the knee and—" "No," Joffrey snapped, face twisting. He had his chance. He sent you back to me, didn't he? That's what my mother said he'd do. But he's raised his banners instead. He thinks he can scare me with a few wolves. I'll show him what happens when dogs snap at a lion." Littlefinger's chuckle was very soft. "Do not underestimate the wolf, your grace," he said mildly. "Even a few can bring down a lion, if they catch it by the throat in the dark." Joffrey scowled at him but subsided. "Well, father killed their last wolf, didn't he?" He glanced at Sansa. "I hear your sister's direwolves are dead too. Maybe that was a sign from the gods that you should remember your place." His smile returned, bright and cruel. "If Robb comes here, I'll feed him to Ser Island. Then there will be no wolves left in the world at all." "You're wrong," Sansa thought, with a sudden, fierce clarity that startled her. "There will always be wolves, so long as the North remembers." Her father's head had fallen on the steps, but some part of him remained with her. He had not been perfect. He had lied, even to her, to protect her from truths he thought too sharp for her soft hands. He had refused to play the game that everyone else in the city seemed to delight in. But he had loved her, and he had tried to keep her safe even at the cost of everything he was. She lowered her eyes again, hiding the spark hardening behind them. "My brother will do his duty," she said. "Whatever that may be." Varys shifted slightly, the rustle of silk faint. Sansa caught the barest flicker of his gaze meeting Littlefinger's, a question there neither voiced. Did they regret what they had done on those steps? Did they take pride in it? She could not tell. All she knew was that the man who had died wore her father's face, and those two had watched as calmly as if they were appraising a painting. Cersei rose, the movement smooth as water. "That's enough talk of traitors for one day," she said. "Sansa, you will attend me. We shall discuss the heraldry for your wedding cloaks." Wedding cloaks. Sansa felt her knees weaken. She stood all the same, dipping a curtsy. "As you command, your grace." As she followed the queen from the chamber, she glanced once toward the high, narrow windows. Crows wheeled in the white sky beyond, black specks against the light. She wondered if any of them had flown north, if they had seen Robb's host marching, banners snapping, wolves at their heels. If there was any corner of the world where her father still lived, she would never know it. In her world, he was dead on the steps of Baelor's September. The only trace of him she had left was in her, in the set of her jaw when she swallowed tears, in the way she learned to smile and lie and nod at monsters without letting them see her flinch. King's Landing had taught her how quickly heads could fall. Perhaps, Sansa thought as she trailed behind Cersei's silks, it would also teach her how to make others fall in turn. The camp had settled into the low, restless murmur that passed for sleep before a march. Men snored under damp cloaks. Horses stamped and blew clouds of steam into the dark. Somewhere, a man sang under his breath, a wordless tune that rose and fell like wind through pines. Ned sat a little apart from the nearest fire, ice across his knees, the great sword's Valyrian steel catching and swallowing the light in a way no other metal could. He drew the oiled cloth along the blade with slow, practiced motions. The sword felt heavier than he remembered, though its weight had not changed. Perhaps it was he who had. This was the first time he had laid hands on it since the Black Cells. Varys had contrived its journey north as carefully as his own, smuggled out of the Red Keep before the Lannisters could claim it as a trophy. When Ned had opened the plain wooden chest in Lord Manderley's private chambers and seen the dark ripples of the steel, he had felt something inside him click into place, like a bone set after being broken. Robb approached without his guards, only gray wind at his heel. The great direwolf moved like a patch of living shadow, eyes catching the firelight and reflecting it back in pale silver. At Ned's first movement, the wolf's head came up, nostrils flaring. For a heartbeat, man and beast regarded one another. Then gray wind padded forward and sank down behind Robb with a soft huff, as if satisfied. "Can't sleep?" Ned asked. "Didn't seem much point," Robb said, lowering himself onto the log beside him. He sat with the casual stiffness of a man whose muscles had not yet learned to tire at the right times. "Every time I close my eyes, I see the river," See banners burning. See. He broke off. Ned did not press. He could guess what images walked his son's dreams. He had seen enough of his own. The night before a march is always like this, he said instead. Even when there is no battle on the far side of the horizon, men feel the change coming. The body knows before the mind admits it. Robb watched the cloth move along the blade. I thought ice had been taken, he said quietly. When we heard you, his throat worked. I thought they'd hang it above the throne room or melt it into something for Joffrey to prance about with. The spider has long fingers, Ned said. It seems he was not willing to let such a prize rest in Lannister hands. He sent it north with me, said the north would need its sword. He paused. He did not do it for my sake, or yours, but he did it. Do you trust him? Robb asked. No, Ned said, but I listen when he speaks. It is a poor hunter who ignores the rustle in the grass because he doesn't like the snake making it. He turned the cloth, working it into the fuller. You did well today. Robb huffed a half-laugh. I spent half the council feeling as if I were 15 again, standing at your elbow while you spoke to the bannermen. I thought, for a moment, they might all look to you and forget I exist. If they had, I would have reminded them, Ned said. You called the banners. This is your war. I am an old sword, returned from the deep. I'll serve where I can, but I won't steal the command you've already taken. You think I've taken it? Robb stared into the fire. Sometimes it feels I'm just clinging to it because I don't know what else to do. I ride, I listen, I decide which road to take, and men call it command. But I don't feel wise or great. I just do the next thing that needs doing. That is all command is, Ned said. Do not let songs convince you otherwise. Your grandsire rode with the Mad King's banners when it seemed the only choice that would keep his people safe. Then he rode against him when it became clear that safety was a lie. Neither road was easy. He told me once that leadership was not a matter of being born knowing what to do, but of bearing the weight of choosing wrong and carrying on anyway. His mouth tightened. I have chosen wrong my share of times. Robb's gaze flicked to him. In King's Landing. Long before that, Ned said softly, at the Trident, in the Tower of Joy, on the day your Uncle Brandon died. But yes, in King's Landing most of all. He folded the cloth, laying it aside. I thought I could hold to a straight path in a crooked city. I let myself believe that old oaths and old friendships would protect those who traveled with me. I was wrong. I will not be wrong again where your war is concerned. Robb was silent a moment. If you had known, he said finally. If some god had whispered in your ear when the king's letter came to Winterfell, told you that going south would lead to this, would you have gone? Ned thought of the raven's black beak, the crack of wax as he had broken the seal, of Robert's familiar scrawl, of the memory of two boys laughing in the Aeries' airy halls, making promises neither had truly understood. If I had stayed, Jon Arryn would still be dead, he said slowly. The truth of what the Queen had done would have stayed buried. Stannis would have gone to war alone or not at all. The realm would still be ruled by a false king. Your sisters would still have been summoned as hostages, sooner or later. And when war came, as it would, we would have marched into it blind. He shook his head. There are roads where every fork leads to thorns. You choose the one where you think you can at least see the briars clearly. Robb chewed at the inside of his cheek, a habit he had picked up from Catelyn. Sometimes I wish. He trailed off, then laughed without humor. Sometimes I wish the ravens had all died that day, and we'd never gone south at all. That Bran still climbed the walls at Winterfell, that Arya still chased cats in the halls, that Sansa still sang. Ned's chest hurt. So do I, he said. But wishing does not turn the river back. We stand where we are, not where we would like to be. He reached out, resting a hand on Robb's forearm. We will make this mean something, Robb. We will not let their deaths, and the man who died in my stead, be only fuel for Lannister songs. We will bring our people home, or we will die trying. That is all the gods permit us. Robb nodded, eyes bright. The firelight picked out the copper in his hair, the beginning of lines at the corners of his eyes that had not been there when Ned rode south. "When we reach the twins," he said, "I'll need you to tell me how to speak to Lord Walder, how not to let him creep under my skin." "I can tell you how to speak," Ned said. "I cannot tell you not to be angered. Men like Walder Frye were built to anger others. But I can tell you how to use that anger, and how not to show it." Robb huffed. Sansa would have been better at this. She watched Mother talk to Lord after Lord for years. "I watched men knock each other down in the yard." "Both have their uses," Ned said, mouth quirking. "Tomorrow you speak as your father and your grandfather did. Offer him honor, kinship, the chance to prove to the realm that House Frye stands with the North. If he spurns that, then we'll see what other roads remain." Robb rose. Grey Wind's head came up at once, ears pricking. "You should rest, father," he said. "We ride hard come morning." "So should you," Ned said. "I will." Robb hesitated, then leaned down and clasped Ned's shoulder in a quick, fierce grip. "I'm glad you're here." "So am I," Ned said simply. When his son had gone, swallowed back into the flickering orange and black of the camp, Ned lifted ice once more and laid it across his lap. The blade's dark waves caught the firelight like trapped shadows. He ran his fingers along the flat, feeling every faint ripple, every subtle curve the Valyrians had forged into it centuries before his birth. The South had thought it could kill him with a sword. Now he would teach it what happened when the North brought its own to bear. He looked up at the sky, vast and cold, the stars sharp as pinpricks through the velvet dark, and whispered a name to the old gods whose faces grew on no tree here. Lyanna, and then, softer still, Caitlin. Somewhere ahead, beyond the marsh and the river and Walder Frey's thin-lipped scorn. His lady rode under strange stars, bearing grief he had not yet taken from her shoulders. Soon, he promised. Soon, if the gods were kind, he would stand before her again and tell her that the man she had mourned was not entirely lost. If the gods were not kind, then he would at least die with sword in hand on northern soil, not as a spectacle for a lion whelp's pleasure. It was not enough. It would have to be. By the time they saw the twins, Ned's cloak was damp with morning mist and the horse's flanks were flecked with lather. The green fork churned below the castle towers, a broad, ugly ribbon of water the color of dirty pewter. Mist clung to its surface, muffling the sound of its flow. Above, the twin keeps reared on either bank, connected by a series of narrow stone spans like vertebrae. Arrow slits gaped along their walls. Banners hung limp in the still air, the pale blue of House Frye marked with its twin-towered sigil. The Freys were ready. Men-at-arms crowded the walls, helms and spear points dark in the half-light. The gates remained shut. As Robb's vanguard approached, a horn sounded from the nearest tower, low and warning. The answering echo from the eastern keep sounded more like a question. "They looked friendlier in the songs," Theon muttered, riding just behind Robb with a smirk he did not quite feel. "Do you think they'll throw us a feast, or just piss on us from the walls?" "Lord Walder does nothing without a price," Ned said. He had drawn his hood up, the better to hide his face. Among a moving host, one more gray-bearded man in a plain cloak drew little notice. "Today, we find out what he thinks our need is worth." Robb raised a hand, signaling the column to halt at a safe distance from the walls. Hoofs stamped, men shifting in their saddles, eyes on the towers. A lone rider detached himself from the host and rode forward, a tall man with streaks of gray in his dark hair, Frye colors on his cloak. "Lord Robb Stark, I presume," he called when close enough to be heard without shouting. His accent was thick with the river. "I am Ser Stevran Frye, heir to Lord Walder. My father bids me ask your business at his bridge." Robb nudged his horse forward a step. Grey Wind kept pace, hackles faintly raised, gaze fixed on the walls. "My business is plain," Robb said. "I ride to relieve Riverrun and throw down the men who hold my grandfather's halls by siege and sword. The twins sit astride the fastest road to my cause. I ask Lord Walder's leave to cross and offer bargain for it." Stevren's gaze flicked to the mass of riders behind Robb, thousands of northern horse, breath smoking, banners furled. He did not seem overly impressed. Many men ask leave of my father's bridge. Fewer offer what he would consider proper thanks. He is a lord of great dignity, meaning, prickly pride and a purse with a hole in the bottom, Theon murmured under his breath. Ned shot him a look. The boy subsided, though his grin did not entirely vanish. My mother rides from Riverrun to treat with Lord Walder as kin, Robb said. She should arrive soon, God's willing. In the meantime, I stand here as the son and heir of Eddard Stark of Winterfell, whose head your king took on the steps of his September. I do not ask as a beggar at your gate. I offer alliance, blood and steel together. That should be thanks enough for any man who claims to love his own. Stevren's mouth tightened. My father has heard of your grief, he said. He has also heard that your host marches against the lawful king of the Seven Kingdoms. These are matters he must consider carefully. He is old and cautious. He is a bannerman of my grandfather, Hoster Tully. Robb cut in. He holds his lands by Tully grace. If he lets my host rot on this bank while my kin bleed on the other, I will remember it. Stevren flinched as if struck, but recovered quickly. Lord Walder remembers many things as well, my lord. Slights, oaths taken and not honored, guests who passed his tables by for more famous ones. He will not be hurried. If you would have his leave, you must petition him properly. Dismount. Leave your host camped where they are. You and a small escort may enter the hall to speak. Robb tensed. Ned could feel it through the air between them, the instinctive refusal rising. To walk into the twins with only a handful of guards while Fry men watched from every angle was to place his neck on a block as surely as Ned had in the September. I'll go with you, Theon said at once. They won't try anything with a Greyjoy at your side. I'm not certain that's the reassurance you think it is, Ned murmured. Robb glanced back at him. For a moment, something boyish flickered in his eyes, a wordless question. Are you with me? Will you stand at my back? Your father is dead, Ned said softly enough that Stevren could not hear. Remember that. The South believes it, and so must every man who sees you, until we choose otherwise. You walk into that hall as Robb Stark, Lord of Winterfell, not as a boy with his father at his shoulder. Robb swallowed. Will you come anyway? He asked, more quietly still. Yes, Ned said, but under another name, as one more northern sword at your side. Walder Frey must not know the value of the coin he holds if he takes me hostage. Robb hesitated only a heartbeat before nodding. He turned back to Stevren. Very well, he called. I will come to your father's hall with a small escort to speak of crossing. But hear me on this, Ser Stevren. If he plays me false, if any harm comes to me under his roof, the North will remember. No stone in your towers will be left atop another. Stevren bowed from the saddle. My father is a careful man, he repeated. He knows the cost of breaking guest right. A small, sour smile touched his mouth. As I imagine, do you? Ned watched him wheel his horse and ride back toward the gate. The Frey banners stirred faintly as he passed beneath them, like tattered tongues tasting the air. Who will you take? Ned asked. Robb looked over his shoulder at the lords behind him. Theon, he said. Grey Wind, two of the Karstark men, Ser Harrion, Ser Eddard, and... He met his father's eyes. Ser Brandon Snow. Took Ned a heartbeat to understand. Brandon Snow. A bastard name and a brother's ghost. He almost protested. Then he nodded, a quiet acknowledgement of his son's quick wits. As you say, my lord. He pulled his hood further forward, hiding his face in shadow. Ser Brandon Snow. It was not the first false name he had worn. He had been Ned the Boy, Eddard of Winterfell, the Quiet Wolf, the Hand, Lord Stark. This one would sit no heavier on his shoulders than those others had. What mattered was which man used the name and to what end. As they rode toward the waiting gates, the music of the river rose around them, a low, ceaseless rush. The twins loomed above, their stone faces impassive. Somewhere within their walls, Walder Frey waited with his tally of remembered slights and his sharp, beakish cunning. The South had taken Eddard Stark to witness its games once before. Now he came to watch a different kind of game played, not with small council whispers and poisoned cups, but with bridges and oaths and the thin line between guest and foe. He set his face in the calm, unreadable lines that had served him well in 100 hard courts, from Winterfell's smoky hall to Robert's noisy throne room, and rode on.